Hi everyone, my name is Rita and welcome to Sidian Wits Podcast episode 4. Today we are talking about financial literacy and it's all about money and what you're doing with our money. But before we get started, I'd like my colleagues to introduce themselves.
Thanks, Rita. My name is June Mora and I'm very excited to be here today.
Hi guys, my name is Robert Kariuki. I'm happy to join this conversation today.
So guys, today we're talking about financial literacy, and of course, remember if you did 844, you're told to define terms about financial literacy. So we want to start by defining what is financial literacy. For me, I think it's just knowing about money and how to use your money. What do you think, June? What do you think financial literacy is?
So, well, to me, financial literacy means the ability to be able to understand financials, to be able to use various financial skills such as budgeting, saving, investing, and it's not something that you learn on just one day. It's something that is a lifelong journey. So it's something you learn today. It is a continuous journey. You can learn something today, you learn something else tomorrow. So it's not something that you just learn in one day. How about you, Robert?
When I speak about finance, I think I'm discussing money matters. And when I speak about literacy, I'm speaking about the knowledge and understanding. So when I combine both, I think financial literacy is knowing what to do and not what to do with money. I would say it sounds simple, but it is a jargon that needs further deliberations. It is also a jargon that needs education and training since when someone is young.
So now that we've defined financial literacy, I think we need to talk about something that Robert, you ended with, about the youth and being young and learning about your finances when you're young. And in Kenya right now, 75% of the population is actually below 35, which is a really, really young population. And so it's important, I think, to learn some of these things when you're young so that you don't make the mistakes as you grow older. I think it's also important for parents, if you have children, how you give, during birthdays, you give like 100 bob, 200. So even as you're giving your child that 100, 200, you can start teaching them about how to use their finances, and they can learn from a young age. June, what are some of the things that you wish you were told when you were young about finances?
So, Rita, it's quite interesting that when we talk about young people, we could be referring to the guys who've just cleared campus last year. They do not have money, so they are wondering what can they do with it. So one thing I wish I learned when I was still younger is that you can always save something small. It could be even 100 shillings, 200 shillings. You're sent by your mother to the kiosk. In Kenya, we call them kiosks. So you're sent with a 200 shilling. They tell you to keep change. Maybe the change is 50 shillings. You can always save that 50 shillings for a future rainy day. Yeah? So I wish I learned that you can always save money no matter how small it is.
When you discuss about learning financial matters, I think as a society, there has been a bit of consumption push where we are teaching young people that they should spend without teaching them other financial elements such as savings. That means we're having a gap in knowledge. However, we have various ways to bridge this gap. And one of them, which I think is the best way, in my opinion, is to work with people who have done it before. That means that you not need to go back and reinvent the wheel again. And also, they have already the tested formula. That means it's just like plug and play. However, if you can't get a mentor, which is a very small percentage of that, there's a lot of content in either written, video, audio that you can use to gain your knowledge. It's all over the internet. The materials are all over the libraries. And I think finally, you can also engage the financial advisors. It may come at a cost, but they are professionals and they might take you throughout that journey.
I think one of the things that we can learn, especially when you're young, is about reducing your costs. Because this economy for today, hey, I don't know if you people have noticed, a few years ago, you could go with 1,000 shillings and come with a bag from the supermarket. Today, if you go with 1,000 shillings to the supermarket, you come out with a 3-liter oil carrying by yourself. Yeah, so things have really become expensive. So it's really important to learn how to reduce your cost and to make sure that your costs are at a minimal. I keep saying, you remember Abraham's Maslow's, it was called what? Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
Where you had your needs and your wants. So now you have to put need priority 1, need priority 2. Me, that is what it has reached in my life. Need priority 3, you know. So there is now you have to prioritize your needs. So let's talk about reducing costs. What are the ways you think we can be able to start reducing costs?
Thanks, Rita. I think that way you said at the beginning really has made me think about this. Because sure, the cost of living has gone up. And I think cost reduction is one of the ways to survive financially. Most people do speak about living within your means, but I am not a believer of that. I do think we need to live below our means. Because when you tell us to live within our means that we can spend all that we make. But I do think if we are to cut cost, we need to spend less than we make. So again, you will not reduce what you don't know. So you need to start by tracking your costs. And for you to track them, you need to use a budget. A simple tool, you know, a budget could be written on a piece of paper. You can use an app, or you can do it online. But you need a budget first of all. And you need to learn the process of cost reduction. Because when you have a budget, you're able to arrange your needs from the needs to the wants. You know, the needs are those things we do need on a day-to-day basis. They are critical to our survival. The wants make us comfortable, but we can't do without. And I do think having a budget and then cutting on our wants is the first step towards having good cost reduction strategy.
That's true. And you know, budget is very simple. It's income minus expenses. You should be on the positive and not on the negative. What do you think?
Also, let's talk about this animal called comparison. Yeah. So you may want to live a lavish lifestyle, which you probably cannot afford. Yeah. So for example, my friend Robert here is driving a Discovery. And I am driving a Kadudu, for those of us who know what a Kadudu is, yeah? So let's try not to compare ourselves. Maybe I can only afford fuel for a Kadudu and not for a Discovery. Let me not try to buy a Discovery and then affect my pockets, yeah? So let's try as much as possible to just live within our means.
June, you, for the record, she is the one who drives the Discovery. I do the Kadudu, but I got the point and I do agree with that.
Guys, we're talking about some great stuff here, some amazing tips that we are getting here. So we want to get into another part of financial literacy, savings. And savings is really important. But I know people usually have questions of how much should I save? When should I start saving? You know, like me, when I got my first salary, the salary was over even before I knew it had started. Like the month was gone and I was like, wow, where is my salary? So I didn't start saving until much later on. So I think it's important that people start saving as early as possible. What are your thoughts about savings?
That takes me back to a conversation I was having with my friend, Abigail. I believe Abigail is watching this. She mentioned to me that you need to save at least 20% of your income. And I thought about it. Because if you don't save, then you will not develop. You will not manage to cater for your expenses. So I suppose anytime you make an income, ensure that at least 20% goes to a savings location. Could be an account, you know, could be a SACCO, could be a pension fund. But ensure that you put away 20% and do put it away fast. Don't spend and then save. Save and then spend.
I agree with both of you in what you've said about saving. So I think for the younger people, what I can tell them, we need to at least try and save for the rainy days. You could have a medical emergency, or not even yourself, maybe your mother, your spouse, anyone could have a medical emergency. Your car could break down at some point. It's important to at least have some money saved up for such days. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I think, let me ask, I'm just curious. How has the savings journey been for you? Has it been easy? Do you find it tough? Or how do you ensure that you save?
You know, that's a very interesting question, because I think for me what I've learned is that savings is it's a discipline. It's you say that you're going to set aside a certain amount of money, and no matter what happens, that money has actually gone into an account. But for me, what works for me is you make sure you save it in a place where it's not easy to access. Because if I can access it easily, let me give an example. If I put it in M-Pesa, tomorrow I will access it. You know, I'll have a need, so I'll be able to access it. So for me, I think it's a discipline and just making sure that you put it somewhere it's sort of hard to access. Yeah, that's what I can say for myself.
Okay, so for me, the journey with saving has been quite easy. I had parents who were very strict about money, yeah? So for example, they'd give you 100 shillings today, then they'd tell you that is what you will use to buy something for yourself in the next 2 weeks. So it was up to you to know, I will buy a sweet with 5 shillings, then I will remain with 95 shillings for my other important things. So that's the kind of mindset I grew up with. It was very important to save from as back as I can remember. So even when I was getting into employment, I already knew it is something I need to do. You need to set up some money aside from whatever income that you have.
I do think that I learned personally about savings later. When I found myself, I need money to cater for a few things, but I couldn't. And then I realized that the only way for me to get this freedom, I need to have something set for me. And so I also noted that I have to put money, and I echo what Rita said, somewhere you cannot access, or somewhere that is hard to access. So personally, I joined a circle, and I think we have circles all over the country. It's also a global now financial movement, and I do believe that they are some of the best and the leading savings. And they do make it harder for you to access your money.
I like where we've ended on savings, and it reminds me of the analogy of an ant. An ant will actually store up food in the summer because winter is coming. And you know, when winter is coming, there is nothing to eat. So whatever it is that they have stored, they are able to live on that. So even as we talk about savings, there is a small word, 4-letter word that is there, but has big implications. And that word is debt. So let's talk about debt. Madeni. Is it possible to have positive debt? A lot of people, there are people who shy away from debt. They don't want to have anything to do with debt. It could be because of various reasons. But then there are also those ones who keep getting into debt. And so we find ourselves sort of in this murky situation where we are not sure, is debt good, is debt not good? What do we think about credit? Is it important to get credit to be able to use your debt? How do we go about debt?
So Rita, I think debt has two sides. It could either be useful or it could be detrimental, yeah? So for example, you can use a knife. A knife can be used to either stab you, or it can be used to apply or use it for margarine, butter, whatever you call it, where you come from. So in the same case, debt can be used as you can take a loan for an investment, which is a good thing, because this is something that will bring you more money as we go, or something like land, which appreciates, so that's a good thing. But if you're using debt for example, to buy alcohol, I'll give that as an example, then I mean, there's no money that will come back, and you'll be repaying a debt for something which is not even of use in your day-to-day life, yeah? So I think, and also getting rid of debt can be hard, yeah? It can be hard. So let's try as much as possible to at least use debt for useful things or investments.
This is interesting. You know, when Rita spoke about a 4-letter word, got anticipation rose up a little, but when she mentioned debt, I was relieved. it's also good to know that a knife have many uses. I personally apply margarine with a spoon. Yeah. I don't know whether I'm doing it wrong. But I'm thinking debt is a great financial tool. A great financial tool. Let me say it at that time. A great financial tool. And the reason is it enables us to accomplish those things that we would have to wait for many years to do. However, how much I said a great financial tool with passion, it can also be a great financial mistake. And this is if we leverage wrongly. And the reason is debt comes with a cost. And that's where we need also to know that we are consuming our future income today. Remember, when you take a debt that you're going to pay for 5 years, you are taking your income in the 5th year today. And hence, debt must work for you. It must work for you and must work for you well. The best way to do so is to ensure that you manage your debt costs, and that is getting the best rate as possible. We have a scenario where Shylocks are mushrooming everywhere. Predatory lending is all over, putting young people into debt that they can't get out. But work with regulated institutions such as us, Cedian Bank, because we do offer and operate within the laws that ensure you're protected. However, also make sure you're using your debt to invest in guaranteed financial assets. Maybe there's no investment that is 100%, but when I look at some assets such as real estate, it is so different from investing in maybe stock. So focus to put your debt in those investment assets that have less risk. And another good example is government bonds, where you get or fixed deposits with a bank. However, and I will echo June, that avoid using debt for consumption.
As we come to the close of this very interesting discussion we've been having today, we want to talk about wealth. I think the next level, after you've learned how to reduce your cost, you've learned how to save, you're living on a budget, you've invested, you've reduced your debt. So I think the next level now comes to wealth generation. And for me, I think wealth generation is about having multiple streams of income, or even having the money that you have doing more for you, so that you can be able to live comfortably, even as you go into retirement. Sometimes when you're young, you don't think that retirement is going to come. So I think for me, it's important to have ways in which you can be able to generate wealth and be able to create wealth and be able to have more and more investments, even as Robert says. So what are the ways you think we can be able to maybe maximize on our cash, June, even as we close this conversation?
So I think maybe start a business. It doesn't have to be a business that requires a lot of money. It could be what people call a side hustle. Yeah, so you have employment, but you also have your side hustle. Could be just little money that you require. For example, start selling smokies, pale kwa hood. So that's a way of generating your money to get more income. So yeah, start a side hustle. Whatever skills you have, talents, ideas. Whichever idea you have, just think of how this idea can be able to generate more money for you. Interesting.
So I think we all want financial freedom. And there is a way to achieve financial freedom. Probably your salary will never give you financial freedom. But I think there are many opportunities that we can utilize to grow our income. I remember we spoke about savings. We have also spoken about debt. So what do you save for? Do you want to save and your money remains the same? No. It shouldn't be like this glass of water. You were given half full, now it's empty. We would not want our savings to... let me take a sip.
That's true. That's a very good analogy.
You see, it's going down. We don't want this. We want to grow. So I do think that based on your level of experience, knowledge and skills, there's always a way to start. One of the things and all the best ways you can invest as a young person is you put your money where the risk is less. Because you see, when you're starting, you don't have much. So you want to be sure of your returns. And I had mentioned earlier, they are guaranteed income lines. Government bonds, you're talking about fixed deposits investments, you're talking about SACCO investments. There are also risky investment options. But remember, these are passive ways through which you invest. And passive means that they'll make money for you without you doing much. However, always manage the risk and always make sure that wherever you invest, you're investing in a legal manner, because we have a lot of, they call them con investment in the market. I know you've met them, others telling you they'll multiply your money. June gave me an interesting story, when we were preparing for this. June, maybe, would you mind reminding us? Yes. So she told me that somebody came to her and told her that she can invest 5,000 shillings and she could make 50,000 shillings in 3 months. Well, it doesn't work that way. Wealth generation is a systematic process that takes time, but however, if you stick to it, it works at last.
I think that is what we used to call pyramid schemes. And a lot of people really lost a lot of money in pyramid schemes. So it's important to invest in legal entities where your money is safe. And secure. So we've come to the end of a very interesting discussion today. This discussion has been about finances and how we can be able to make the most of our money. And I really hope that all of us have been able to get just a few tips here and there of how we can be able to manage our money and make sure that our money is working for us and not against us. So thank you very much for tuning into CD and Wheat podcasts. Follow us on our socials below.